Assalamu alaikum everybody. This is lecture 8 regarding the decision making models, which we are already discussing in the appendix of chapter 1. I am Shahid Khokar, and today we will talk about the decision theory. So, in decision theory, what the book is saying, first we should know about it. As you can see in the slides, decision theory is a general approach to decision making when the outcomes associated with the alternatives are often in doubt. It means you have more than one option to solve the problem और उस ऑप्शन के लिए हम लोगों ने जो टर्मिनोलॉजी यूज की है that is the alternatives. And he is talking about every alternative has different outcome or the different output. And once you are not sure that which alternative has which output, so in that case, we use the process which is called decision theory. And in the next slide, we can see what is the process for applying the decision theory. But before going to the process, we should know in which areas we can use this concept. So operation managers can use this concept while taking decision about their capacities. Capacities means the production capacity. Moreover, they can use this concept about making decision with the inventory, and they can also use this concept with the locations of their manufacturing or the warehouses. They can also use this concept for choosing the different processes. So there are multiple usages of this concept which is called the decision theory. Other than the operation managers, this approach can also be used by other functional areas of an organization. So this was the concept of the decision theory. Now in the next slide, we will talk about the steps. What are the different steps a manager can take while using the decision theory? So here he is talking about the first step would be list the feasible alternatives. As in the last lecture, I have talked to you what does it mean by the feasible. Feasible means that any idea or the any solution or the any approach which you can easily implement in your organization. So here he is talking about that, for example, you want to start a new retail outlet in a city and you don't know where the retail outlet should be. So here he is saying that theoretically a manager should consider every single corner of the whole city. So after considering all the options, he should make a decision where the retail outlet should be. But obviously, it's not possible. You have the time limitations, you have the resources constraints. So, feasible alternative means any option or the any possible option which is easy to implement in the organization or which is implementable in the organization. The second step he is talking about is list the events. And as you can see in the slides, sometimes they are called the chance events or the states of nature. It means that in the decision theory process, manager should consider all those events which are in his control, but there are also some events which are not under the manager control. So he is talking about what are the examples of the events which are not under the manager's control, like natural calamities. For example, nowadays you can see the coronavirus is also a chance event. Nobody can predict it that it would happen in future. So here he is talking about in the second step you will list all the events which are related with the problem. Then he is talking about with the events you will group them into the reasonable categories. All the after listing the events you are supposed to make a groups so your decision making becomes easier. In the book he is talking about that you are thinking about the sales of a particular unit, and that sales could be between from 1 to 500, but it would be impossible for you to create a 1 to 500 groups. We will create the events into the groups. We will create the groups by using the reasonable number. For example, in our example, we can say we can make three groups: 100 units per day, 300 units per day, and the 500 units per day. So here he is talking about you are supposed to list the events and then group them into the reasonable categories. Then he is talking about calculate the payoff for each alternative in each event. So first we should know what does it mean by the payoff. So here he is talking about these payoffs are usually the total profit or the total cost which you have to incur. So here he is talking about in the third step you can calculate the payoff for each alternative which you are considering in every event. Moreover, he is talking about that, for example, if you are considering three alternatives and there are four events, then in that scenario there would be 12 payoffs in total. So this is the concept which you needs to make sure. And moreover, he's talking about while considering the payoffs, you are supposed to consider the time value of money concept. And what is mean by the time value of money concept? It means that if you are receiving any payoff in future, so you will discount them with a certain interest rate in such a manner that you know what would be the present value of those future payoffs. Now, this is the concept of finance which you might have studied. What is the mean by the time value of money? So here he is talking about while calculating the payoff, you are supposed to calculate the payoff in terms of time value of money. Moving on, he is talking about estimate the likelihood of each event using past data, executive opinion, or other forecasting methods. Here you can see that you are not sure about the outcome of any alternatives. So, based on that, what you will do, you will try to find out the probabilities that how many percent there are chances of a particular event. So, while calculating the probabilities, the sum of all the probabilities must be equal to 1, and you can use the past data or the opinions of the higher management, or you can use any other forecasting method to calculate the possibilities. And the last point he is talking about is you will select a decision rule to evaluate the alternatives. It means once you are considering which alternative would be the best for you, you have to make a decision based on certain rule, and that rule could be choosing the alternative with the lowest expected cost. If you are making decision with the lowest expected or the lowest possible cost, then you will consider the that alternative which is producing the minimum cost. So this is the 5 steps which you can take while using the decision theory, and decision theory helps you to make the decisions on a objective way. These decisions are not based on the personal judgment or gut feeling of the manager. So here we are talking about an operation manager needs a decision making models or decision making tools. For example, we have already talked about break even analysis. Here we are talking about decision theory, and in decision theory, in the next lecture, we will talk about different scenarios that anything what will the manager will do if he has a definite information about the future, or what the operation manager will do if he don't have a definite information, or the in case of uncertainty, or what the operation manager can do in the situation of risk. So we are using these tools just to facilitate the operation manager so that he can improve the productivity of the organization, and once he will produce the productivity, obviously you are reducing the cost of production. So in this lecture we talked about the decision making theory. In the next lecture we will further discuss the scenarios attached with the decision theory, and how this decision theory can help an operation managers. That's all for this lecture. Hopefully आप लोगों को ये concept समझ आ गया होगा. If you have any question regarding this lecture, you can go to the Google Classroom to ask your questions, or you may contact with your co-teachers so that they can help you how to understand these concepts in a best manner. That's all for today. See you on the next time.